New Zealand is still the country of wide open spaces, but in some parts the pattern is changing. The large sheep stations are being subdivided for closer settlement. The process has been hastened since the war by the government buying estates for settling ex-servicemen on the land. For Maori ex-servicemen, HARBOUR sheep station is being divided into 18 farms, ranging from 40 to 500 acres. Much of the work of developing the new farms is being done by the men who will eventually own them. Before they can take over their farms, the men must become efficient in all branches of farming. They learn by doing the 101 things that the New Zealand farmer does. Under the country's generous rehabilitation scheme, all ex-servicemen are paid by the government while they learn their new jobs. In the camp dining room, which is run by the Rehabilitation Department, men of the famous Maori battalion who fought with Montgomery's 8th Army in the Western Desert eat together again. They talk about old times and the new. Already some of the houses are finished, and they know what their new homes will be like. The farmers' wives are proud of their modern homes with their every convenience. Their standard gives a lead in solving one of the country's headaches, the housing conditions of the Maori people. In their spare time, the farm trainees have laid tennis courts, and during the weekends, these become the community centre. The HARBOUR people look forward to the day when they'll all be settled on their farms. For them and their children, there is a bright future. Today, the Otago Model Engineering Society is letting off steam by playing trains. It's quite a break for young boys and old boys. This is a New Zealand WAB, and the original of this was built in 1804 by Trevithick, 25 years before Stephenson's rocket. Here they don't get hauled over the coals for stoking with a teaspoon. Whatever their motive for building one of these locomotives, model engineers must have both skill and patience. Some engines take up to 2 years to build and are complete and accurate in every detail. The Midge, a British type, has plenty of pull. There's nothing tender about this engine. Though model engineers get their greatest pleasure from the building of their engines, there's quite a thrill in giving them the throttle. He's going well for an old buffer. And here went on another train of thought. An exhibition of the rolling stock of the New Zealand railways. New Zealand's largest locomotive is the 140-ton K. It's compared with a Fell, a tank engine designed 80 years ago for hauling trains up the Rimataka Mountains. Another old-timer is the Fairlie double-ender. 2 engines in one, it was a powerful brute when railways were young. Best of all is to see the rolling stock really rolling. New Zealand railways are a 3'6" gauge with 3,500 miles of track in the 2 islands. No matter what your station in life, you can't help being fascinated by model trains. Before the sun has dissolved the morning mists, the fishermen of Akaroa are getting underway. This is the crayfishing season, and the onyx is leaving the shelter of the long harbour for the open sea. The Maori name Akaroa means long harbour, and this quiet landlocked inlet has seen stirring times. 150 years ago, it was the haunt of sealers and whalers from the other side of the world. Before the open sea is reached, the nets are baited up with paua, a native shellfish. Whether fishing will be north or south of the harbour entrance is determined by the tides and the weather. The day's first radio forecast determines the fisherman's daily routine. Along the inaccessible cliff faces are colonies of shags. For them, there's good fishing in the sea below. This is also the winter haunt of the now rare fur seals. When the warm weather comes, they leave for the colder south. When the fishing grounds are reached, the nets are set in line from the boat. Like fishermen the world over, the Akaroa men are masters at memorizing every locality. They find the reefs and shelves where the crayfish lurk to within a few yards. The sea is calm, so it should be an easy day's fishing. Back at Akaroa, visitors are looking at old whaling tripods. The township's colourful past is belied by its sleepy look in winter. Some of the old French houses are still lived in, others are deserted. From France, 110 years ago, sailed immigrants to claim New Zealand's South Island. Their destination, Akaroa. But the British got wind of their plans, and when the French arrived, the British flag was flying over the harbour. So part of New Zealand nearly became a French colony. The French settlers stayed on, and Akaroa has plenty to remind it of its past. This was the house built by Captain Laveau, captain of the frigate which escorted the immigrant ship. His is still an everyday name in the town, and so are those of many of his countrymen. And in the French cemetery, French, British and German settlers who came later share a common memorial. Now there's good farming country on the hills above the harbour, and in summer the picturesque township is a popular holiday resort. The snug harbour is the haven for the fishing fleet, whose principal market is the city of Christchurch, 50 miles away. Back at the harbour entrance, the crayfish have been suckers for the power bait and have walked into the traps. Today there are good hauls. In addition to supplying the Christchurch market, the Akaroa fishermen do a good trade in exporting frozen crayfish tails. It's been a successful day. The weather has been kind, the crayfish cooperative. Ahead is a safe anchorage, the lights of the town, and the warmth and comfort of home in a quiet harbour.